So ahead of the EFL Cup final this weekend, I thought we would have a look at the two teams, a completely unbiased view, of course, and see what we think we could expect from the Cup final. The only reason I'm doing this really is because it's between two Premiership teams. We should be able to form some sort of judgment and give an insight into what we expect to see. So what you can see here is a spreadsheet with the teams ranked 1 to 20 based upon their current league position and how they've performed against each other. So we're looking at form lines, basically. And if we look, typically you'd arrange this home and away. So we're going to have to make an adjustment for teams that are playing at home and away. But if you look at Man United, you can see really, against the top half of the table, they've won against Spurs. Away they've won against West Brom and West Ham, when West Ham were much lower. But you can see generally they're not winning that much. And if you look at the bottom half, then they're obviously winning a lot. So the interesting thing about this is, they've still got to play, I was going to say they've still got to play Man United. They've still got to play Everton, West Brom, and they've got Man City, Arsenal and Spurs away. Bit of an ask. And they've got to play Chelsea at home as well. So, they've been on a good run of form. Will that continue? I'm not so sure. If we look at Southampton, when they've played teams in the top half of the table, you can see they've got one win against Everton at home, and that was because it was Ronald Koeman. I'm not sure if there was any other particular reason that they won the match. I was at that match. I remember that very well. But if we look against that, the record is pretty poor, to be honest, isn't it? Look, 0-2, 1-4, 1-2, 1-3, and they can't win away in the top half of the table, and they can't really seem to win away in the bottom half, although they have had 3 notable wins there. But generally they're tending to win against lower half teams at home. Now, of course, the EFL Cup final is at Wembley, and as a consequence it's a neutral ground, so you can sort of nullify it somewhat, and that will have a bit of a change in terms of the way that you view things. So if I invert this, first of all, let's make a note of this. Basically, against teams like Southampton, Manchester United at home are scoring a goal, and they're conceding about 0.6. So we can sort of say, if Man United are at home, they're scoring about 1 and conceding about 0.6. If we look at Southampton playing away, actually, we've got to do the top half, haven't we, really? You're sort of, they're not really scoring, basically, which is a bit worrying. So we would say that let's have a look at that again. It's pretty poor. Maybe we'd allocate them 0.5 of a goal, and in terms of how many they concede, the average is quite high. We're looking at about 1.8 or thereabouts. It's not particularly great. So if we took those in isolation, you can see that that's quite heavily weighted to Man United. But let's flip them round and see if we can get a slightly different view on things. So Southampton, when they're playing at home against those teams towards the top of the division, you can see the problem that they've got here is they're not scoring that many goals. So I could put in a 0.7 on that occasion, and if we're looking around here, they're conceding about double that, which is not great. But you can see that reflected up here. You can see it's mainly red or grey, which means they're losing, or it's a draw. If we look at Man United, then they're not exactly great, but it's sort of balancing out a little bit better. So if I add up those two, we'll see where we end up, and in fact we should invert those if we want to keep those against the top values. So if I do 2.2, 1.3, 2.8, 1.1, and I'm going to average those two out again, and we've sort of nullified the effect of home advantage by just flipping the two around and getting the teams to play each other. So we're looking rather pessimistically here for Southampton at a Man United side that could possibly score 2 to 3 goals, and a Southampton side that's probably going to struggle to score 1. and therefore you would have to favour Manchester United, and I'm sure that that is reflected in the odds. But when you look at this, there's a couple of mitigating factors that you may want to adjust this for. Mikael is out after being injured in the Europa League, and Southampton have signed Manolo Gabbiadini, who is on fire. So, in fact, you know, maybe knock off a small amount over here and add a small amount over there, but you can still see that that would be weighted to Man United if we look at it completely objectively. And the last time I looked at the odds, I think they're about 1.8, which is basically sort of, I'd say, more or less about right, maybe slightly on the short side, because it hasn't taken into account that all the historical stats are saying that Southampton don't score that many. But with the addition of the new striker in the transfer window, that has added a bit of punch up front. And I think really, if you summarise the game, it's gonna he is the joker in the pack. He could be the guy that gets the goal, that creates the opportunity. And also, if you look at the prize that's on offer, obviously Man United would like to win a trophy, but Southampton are absolutely desperate to win a trophy of that nature, having been 38 years since they were last there. So I imagine they're going to put a lot of effort into it. However, there is a skill gap. You can see that reflected in the league and the stats that we've put up here, and that gap is reasonable. So when I turn up to the match on Sunday, I'm going to go for a really good day out, and if we win, fantastic, and if we don't, then I've had a really good day out. That's my philosophy that I'm going to take to the final, and I hope it's an entertaining one for the neutral amongst us. But like I said at the beginning of the video, it's difficult to view it with impassionate eyes. However, hopefully I've given you a bit of insight into how the market is pricing that particular match.